So hello, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Ari Hirschberg, Community Practice Lead at the Exchange Lab. I'm talking with Nino Samson, product owner of the Health Gateway Ministry of Health team, to continue the conversation from the Digital BC live stream with Jillian Carruthers on setting the conditions for digital at scale enhanced the Health Gateway team's velocity. How we enable the foundations for digital teams, ensuring that digital teams can be successful in the long run is crucial. And in this continuing conversation, we're not talking about small, tiny pieces. This is the Ministry of Health. This is a very big ministry in our organization, and how we drive agile change is crucial. I'm excited to go deeper with Nino. So with that, I would like to welcome Nino.
Hi, Ari. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the podcast. All right, here we go. As you know, the new exchange will be opening shortly. Your team's the first team from the Ministry of Health to work in Agile. What was it like starting at the lab and working in this way?
Yeah, I'm very excited to see the new Dev Exchange, Ari. The old 1012 Douglas has its place in my heart as this center for innovation and collaboration with private and public sector and other colleagues just trying to solve government's tough challenges and problems. Being the first team, the first Ministry of Health team in the Developers Exchange was very exciting for me because I'd gone on several tours just trying to figure out, okay, how do I get involved in this? How do I get my work unit, my division, my ministry involved in this innovative work that's going on, and what even goes on in these rooms. And so that's what I was just intrigued about. Just going on my first tour, I remember seeing, walking through the hallways and seeing just a bunch of screens and mostly code, and I was just wanting to see, what are they actually doing and how does this work? And for me, it was a bit of a journey for the Ministry of Health to get into the BC Developers Exchange, because we first had to understand and go through processes in which we needed to understand what our problem was that we were going to bring in and try to tackle in the Developers Exchange in the lab, at the time the CSI lab. And so for us, it was definitely a learning opportunity, engagement with executive and my team at all levels to understand, okay, well, what are we trying to do? Go through this discovery phase of what can we build, and are we ready to do so, and are we committed to continuing on with that work and developing a product in the lab? So definitely exciting, but what we had to do is establish the ground rules and foundation for an agile team to actually operate and be supported. And so in this new space, I'm just excited because we've cultivated all these teams that know how to work in an agile fashion, how to collaborate, how to use new tools, how to engage across ministries, and see the patterns and components that they can reuse in addressing the challenges in the public sector in delivering services to citizens.
Well, I'm happy that even though it sounded daunting when you first got in there, it also was exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first few weeks is when I really started to understand and realize that it wasn't just a cool looking central station where everyone sort of sat around with their laptops out and drank coffees. But I quickly learned that people were exchanging ideas, and even in software development, it's just the currency is code. So exchanging even code that they'd written, and explaining and documenting. Okay, here's how we solve this problem. Here's some ideas, or we use that technology stack. Here's how to do that, and here's what to avoid. That really was quite exciting for me. Even myself as not being a developer, but my teammates, my developers who in previous projects were a little more insulated from other teams, they were very excited to be participating in the community in discussion with other developers and other project teams in the lab.
Yeah, your team jumped into the community right away, and I do think from an outsider it looked like it sped up your work right off this hop.
Yeah, absolutely. We landed in there. In previous projects for me, there was a bit of an onboarding process and getting all our infrastructure set up. But with the lab and with the platform team and having this community, a lot of those keys and foundational blocks were given to us to use if we liked, or to help inform what other tools and software frameworks that we're going to use.
So the work you're doing requires a lot of trust. How have you instilled trust in both your teams and clients?
Yeah, like I said, for us, it was really shifting from a waterfall style of delivery where we took where a project team would take requirements and go through several phases of trying to refine those requirements, and where that might take a lot of time, just trying to gather all of that before even starting to build a product. In this case, with this new style of delivery, we're very much committed to getting that first release out, the first skateboard, if you want to call it that, and if you're talking agile analogies. So what we wanted to really commit to and be able to share with our clients was, okay, we're going to be building something, and we want you to test it out, and we want to be able to share and continue to give you something to test out and build on that. And so that incremental delivery was something we really needed to really cement in terms of this is what we're going to do, and this is how you're going to see is that we need you to be engaged and trust in that we're going to deliver something that our users and our clients all agree upon that's needed. And if there's course correction along the way, we're welcome to that change. So having that engagement in terms of being able to point to whatever we were delivering in that particular 2 weeks or 3 weeks was critical. So I think that's how we gain the trust of our clients, our stakeholders, some of our executive, is that we're always going to be delivering something. We're always going to be open to sharing and documenting and having it available if you want to take a closer look. And just a commitment to continuing to address feedback as it came in.
Yeah, your team was the first team, because we do tours at the lab, and we'd come to your room often after you'd settled in for a while, and you'd even connect with the people who were on the tour and build the trust with them to show them what the work you were doing on, see what they liked and what they didn't like.
Absolutely. I think one of the key elements for continuous improvement is feedback loops. So the way the Health Gateway team always saw an opportunity, given that we're offering our service was a portal for the general public, for British Columbians, that meant that every person that came into the lab, provided they were from BC, had the ability to give us some feedback. So that's how we looked at it, is in that everyone is a citizen. Everyone that we interact with is potentially someone that could be a user, and they have some valuable insights and bring some of their own personal experience that we can continue to try to understand and hone our product with. And then the other piece to trust is within the team. So within our team, a typical software delivery, Scrum team, we have anywhere between 7 and 9 team members, developers, user experience designers, a Scrum master, and a product owner. So that team, because we work so closely, becomes develops this cohesion where we become more natural and comfortable around each other. But part of that is having that vulnerability to just be ourselves. So one of the things we try to do to instill that trust and be able to work and collaborate without worrying too much that someone doesn't know as much or someone feels uncomfortable, is that we try to keep it light and break the ice and share more about ourselves so we understand our working styles, but also just each other as people. And I think that's so important when you have a team, because when you have that confidence and that trust and you're able to, let loose a little bit, that also means that when it comes time to have more difficult conversations in your retrospectives, then you can have those without feelings being hurt or any one team member kind of closing off into their own corner.
Yeah, because you built a very strong team that really listens to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my team's changed a little bit. We've had developers come and go, but one of the core aspects for Health Gateway has been, okay, can we keep it light? Can we keep this personal, but also have a commitment to sharing and learning? The other piece is that we really want to espouse that cross-functional mindset. So anyone from a developer to a user experience designer to the product owner, so myself included, we all have a curiosity where we want to learn about each other's practices and each other's processes and knowledge. So it's never in our team, it's if you want to learn more, you're always welcome to. There's no silly questions to be asked. So anyone from the product owner can be a very, very junior developer if you want, or the user experience designer can teach the developers some of the basics of design and user experience, and even some of those aspects where we typically don't cross-pollinate.
So how do you deal with privacy concerns while still providing flexible, instantaneous services often found in private sector?
Yeah, I mean, so the way I see this is that as government, we have a number of privacy and security standards that it is our duty to be in compliance with, and I think that's one of the strengths of the Health Gateway and of other teams in government that are working with personal information, in that since we're held to a higher standard than maybe some of the private sector companies. I think that's something we need to communicate, that when we're dealing with information, when we're offering these solutions where you do collect information or disclose private information, we're holding ourselves to the highest level of privacy. And so part of that is just communicating, why is that valuable, but also one of the things in terms of being flexible and still being able to deliver is that everyone needs to understand and bake in privacy by design. We hear that so often; everyone says it, but that's I think that is a mindset that has to be learned. That we learn how what the various principles of from front end design even all the way to the back end, and how we conduct ourselves around personal information. If you start to bake that into the team, there's no reason why having privacy by design would slow your team down in terms of delivering and having that velocity.
And my hope with this is that it changes the narrative, because when I think of going online, you hear about privacy problems regularly. This will hopefully change that narrative.
I completely agree, Ari. When I think about that question, and that would have been one of the questions that was asked during the live stream. I think what we need to start is to actually flip that script, because from my experience with the Health Gateway, citizens are asking us not why aren't you delivering as fast as the private sector, is how can you ensure that you're protecting our information in a much more secure way than such and such a company, because I read this in the news and there's a breach every month. So how do we ensure that we're maintaining that privacy and security? And so I think it's definitely an opportunity for government to show that in offering these digital solutions that we can maintain that standard, but still provide lots of value in a frequent manner.
Yeah, it's such a big win. What is the team doing for the next 3 months, and how are you envisioning maturing or establishing the product?
Yeah, so for the Health Gateway, our roadmap and our vision was always to provide that single point of access for health information where you could get most of your health information that's within, the context of the BC healthcare system in a single place. And so there's lots more work for us to do. We've been very much focused on supporting COVID, citizen access to COVID health information such as COVID test results or COVID vaccine records. But we also have lots of work where we want to continue expanding and integrating to other data sets. So there's plenty more health information and clinical systems where we want to be able to integrate and provide that information in the Health Gateway, such as lab results, diagnostic imaging reports, other clinical documents. So all we're trying to do is continue to find out where are these opportunities and work out what the technical pieces are to make sure we can integrate.
It sounds like every time you do something good, you have 100 more things to come up with it.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of the nature of this sort of delivery, that if you put a product out there, or you put a feature out there, it sparks more ideas. And I think that's certainly true, holds true for Health Gateway, because, the moment we show someone a medication, a dispensed medication from a pharmacy, they'll ask us, well, why can't I just manage my electronic prescriptions online? Or the moment you start showing, some beneficiary type information, a citizen might ask, well, why can't I manage my family's, my family's MSP? So, yeah, absolutely. Each new feature will spark, a number of other ideas and opportunities, and then that's where it's absolutely critical to have a North Star, a set of goals that you want to hold yourselves to, a roadmap where you're continuing to build and truly understand how we're going to serve British Columbians and their families through the Health Gateway.
Any thoughts on how you deal with feedback that won't be actioned so people feel heard or know, i.e. transparency on what you're building and why?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think anytime especially when you're dealing with the public, you'll often get all sorts of feedback that in some ways just isn't relevant necessarily, or isn't something your team can solve. But so it's and it's very humbling to be engaging with the public, because you'll start to hear, what are the major pain points? What are the biggest challenges for British Columbians today? And some of the time it doesn't have anything to do with your project, but part of it is to be, to have the empathy to listen and to hear that out. But also, I think it's part of it setting the expectations around what you're actually building, because, myself, my colleagues in government, my colleagues in other ministries, all we're trying to do is deliver our piece of the puzzle, and that's kind of a limited scope. But collectively, if we can just set out, what it is we're building or what it is we're delivering, what policies we're making that will improve the lives of British Columbians, then when you engage and when you get feedback, it's a lot more of a clear conversation as to, okay, here's what we can do and here's what we're doing to support you. We're happy to hear your feedback on other aspects, but and try to direct them in the appropriate to the appropriate area. But ultimately, yeah, it's about setting those expectations.
Are you noticing any culture change within the ministry for working this way? Not just agile, but just like really working closely with the clients.
Oh, definitely. I think all across government we've taken we've taken deliberate steps in improving the way we engage publicly and do public consultation. And one of the major frameworks I think that's used is at the onset is setting the level of consultation. If someone's just going to be engaged versus they will advise or actually drive the program or initiative. So I think that's certainly, I'm seeing a lot of that. But one of the signposts for public engagement and really focusing on user-centered design and citizen-focused delivery is the fact that we have a whole division in government that works completely on the digital experience. That's all they're focused on is how are we delivering services and communicating in plain language and providing visual tools through various channels and visual mechanisms to communicate with citizens, to the diverse array of citizens in British Columbia.
Thanks. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, not really. I think this was a long time in the making to sit in and have this podcast. I think for various reasons, and including COVID, it had been deferred for over a year and a half. So I'm happy to be in the room.
Me too. Thankfully, the Digital BC live stream aired a few weeks ago, and we had a forced reason to finally do this podcast.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again for taking the time to share your thoughts, and thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the continued conversation on setting the conditions for digital at scale enhance the Health Gateway team's velocity. I would love to hear from your feedback, comments, and suggestions. You can connect with me at ri.hirschberg@gov.bc.ca or click the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening.